We're going to go now into our final panel discussion where we're going to talk about the marketers of the future. And I'm really excited to welcome two guest speakers today. The first is Gabey Gore. She's the Asia editor of WARC. Gabey has reported on the marketing and technology sectors for over 10 years with experience in online media, magazines, newspapers, and radio. Outside of journalism, she has served as a marketer in the ad tech industry and led content and education initiatives at a leading trade body. The other guest speaker is Ms. Anna Gong, who has over 20 years of global technology experience in enterprise software. Listed in the top 100 Women in Tech 2020 in Singapore and winner of the Singapore Women Entrepreneur Awards 2017, Anna is a frequent keynote speaker on leadership, technology, digital transformation, and entrepreneurship. Wow. This is going to be another Power Pack session, and I'd love to hand it over to you ladies. Take it away.
Good afternoon.
Hi, everyone. Looks like this whole day has been jam-packed with a lot of detailed discussions and thinking around digital transformation, the use and management and optimization of data. So for this final session at ReCon, me and Anna will be taking a bit of a step back and taking a broader lens and a future forward one, given that the theme that was given to us is around marketers of the future. But if there is one thing that has been a common thread throughout the sessions today, it has been this whole notion of the need for businesses to be resilient, the need for marketers to play a core role in ensuring that for the year ahead. So I guess just to kick things off, Anna, you know, when you think about business resilience and you think about the role that digital technologies plays in that, you know, how do you see things panning out in the next 12 months for a lot of marketers? Because right now we're in the middle of budget planning for 2021.
Yeah, that's you know, we've seen such acceleration, but if you think about the role, the talent in itself also is a challenge in most organizations. How do you actually become more data savvy? How do you monetize on that data? And unfortunately, most of the marketers today in the traditional enterprises are not upskilled in a very tech savvy way and how to actually consume or even deploy that kind of monetization value. How do you then, you know, think about the mindset and the culture of the leadership of that organization if you're still focusing on installing large scale digital transformation projects on premise, you know, and trying to do it all on your own and try to build it, that's going to set you back for a few years. As marketers, and I would say head of revenue roles who are touching the customers every day, they will be challenged because they're fighting their core infrastructure and the core culture. And that whole, you know, mobilization of and transformation of those cultural shifts will also define the success of these marketers. And when you look at mobile first, you know, will force you kind of to change your leadership, become cloud ready, become cloud first, and understand how to think outside of the box and then build net new revenue streams from those nimble platforms of the future. So there's going to be a lot of shifts in those mindsets, and marketers have to just embrace it or challenge the status quo.
Would you say then that it's actually the best time ever to be a marketer because this whole year, thanks to COVID-19, everyone's been put through a phase of forced change. Never have lifestyles changed this dramatically in this short amount of time. I mean, there's this quote that keeps floating around going 10 years and 10 months, right? Yeah. And all the planning that a lot of companies who are already active in the digital space around you know, digital transformation, the adoption of e-commerce units and mobile, of course, you know, suddenly in a way they've saved a ton of money because they don't have to spend months, years, and budgets on educating consumers about how to be more digital or pick up like older consumers. How do you shop online? Suddenly they know how because they had no choice. That was the only way you're going to get groceries to your door during lockdown. But amidst all this then becomes the question for a lot of companies around this whole year was about reacting to change. But with the new year looming, you kind of have that cachet now to go to the C-suite and go, this is what's happening. We as the marketing function are your eyes and ears on the ground, and this is what consumers want. You know, pre-COVID, one of the biggest complaints when it comes to digital transformation has always been, you know, cultural change takes forever. My CFO isn't keen on spending this much when the payout's only going to be 5 years from now. Or, oh, my CEO isn't keen on digital because like he doesn't understand TikTok. Like, what is TikTok? You know, are you seeing that kind of almost extra boost of confidence from the marketing clients that you speak to, just because circumstances being what they are, suddenly it's pretty good to be the CMO?
Yes, I would say that in many circles and many global leadership and companies alike, as well as investors, Wall Street themselves, are saying that the marketing or CMO role will be one of the most important roles in the future of this digital economy. And so, meaning they will have more power, more budget, and more say around the digital transformation and journey of this company. And so what does that look like? I mean, if you see certain aggressive growth companies, challenger mindset companies who are willing to lead the forefront, first mover companies, those are now switching and also integrating the CDO, CMO, and CTO into one singular, role, because you need to be tech savvy, digitally savvy, as well as business savvy. And so how do you combine those three elements into one role? So we're going to see a lot of convergence even in leadership, but no doubt that the CMO will have so much more criticality and importance in an organization.
So with that kind of incoming wave of newfound power, and for the advertising industry's sake as well, bigger budgets along with it, the fact of the matter is that the entire consumer journey has changed. Like, it was never linear before, and already brands had trouble trying to map out consumer journeys. But now with post-pandemic, I'm saying post-pandemic, we're still in the middle of it, but with post-pandemic behaviors, suddenly digital is at the core of everything. And marketers now need to, in the old school way was marketers had to think about mental availability when it comes to brand building efforts, and also physical availability when it comes to distribution and product and point of sales kind of tactics. But now there's this whole new thing where they have to think about, especially with e-commerce marketplaces just dominating so many people's time right now, the whole notion of digital availability. So you actually have to build your brand along a completely different set of touch points, and still trying to find that uniformity in message. So what are you seeing in terms of how brand clients are renegotiating and reimagining how they express their brand in a completely different set of, touch points?
Right. This is an important topic, to say the least. I would say consumers are driving corporate strategy. At the end of the day, we used to sit in the boardroom, senior leaders that would work with their line of business owners and just, hash out a plan. Now there's no more plan in place, but your consumers are so far into the other digital realm that you're just reacting. And so unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of that. So the consumers are driving corporate strategy, bar none. And so now the legacy leadership and mindsets are also figuring out and challenged to transform and meet that demand, even just the current state. But as you move more and more into the digital realm, you're going to see a lot more of the traditional enterprises actually creating platforms, creating marketplaces outside of their core. Meaning, what can I do on top of my banking services? What can I do on top of my telco services, on top of insurance? And that means that everyone is now racing to become a super app of sort. Everyone's trying to race to a lifestyle marketing platform. So what can I give my customer that's so lifestyle oriented that I keep them coming back? And so this whole net new revenue innovation is going to be the next, I think, 3 to 5 years core focus for these large enterprises, because the consumers are driving their corporate strategy. And so when you look at mobile first, fintechs, and the super app economy, it's creating a very gray competitive landscape telcos are competing with super apps. They're also entering to fintech and commerce, and retail is going into fintech. And so all this cross-pollination is creating very great competitive landscapes. And we're seeing a lot of that cross-pollination. So you're going to see more convergence, either acquisitions or telcos converging. I mean, like obviously with one of the super apps today, they're going to probably get the virtual banking license soon. So we know who that will be. But, so we're going to see a lot of shift out of the core, and because they have to, it's not because they like to.
So I remember I saw the results of a survey late last year around, this was done by the Financial Times, and it was around, the question they asked was, how confident are you, senior executives and marketers, around how you're able to, or how much do you know about building brands, right? Which is in the old days, the core of any marketer's kind of repertoire. And the results of that survey were quite surprising. More than 60% of senior marketers surveyed said that they were not confident about, the tactics and the strategy when it comes to building their brands long term. So this was a pre-COVID kind of issue, because we were seeing a whole new generation of marketers who were really savvy about things like Google AdWords, Facebook marketing, social media platforms, and stuff like that. But when it came to for lack of a better way to describe it, the old school 4Ps marketing, long-term brand building that the guys who came out of the school of FMCG marketing, your Unilever alumni, your P&G alumni would be really familiar with. There's this whole generation who are not familiar with these kinds of traditional concepts. But now with COVID, suddenly it's almost like digital's now ever more important. So where do you see then the role of these long time honored and still very powerful elements of marketing around things like building brands, long-term investment, and building out elements like distinctive brand assets, and fighting for share, voice, and mind in consumers in no matter what vertical? Everything's saturated.
Right. So I'll be a little bit controversial, because when you look at brand building, if you're still considering brand building, game over. So, brand building, if you're a large brand in itself, we're not buying toilet paper, we're not buying certain things because it's a certain brand. I mean, look at Amazon.com or any of these other, Redmart, they have all these white label, products. We're buying essentials that are more personalized to our habits and behavior and needs. And so it's really about how well can you actually connect with your consumers, leverage digital, leverage analytics and data, how do you personalize that, make it relevant. And so brand building, and that's why a lot of the Unilevers of the world, or Procter & Gamble, and they've said this themselves in multiple platforms, that they're not really focusing too much on brand building for the next few years. They have to claw back digital assets and talent and build their own tech digital capabilities, so that they can then build the infrastructure and foundation on how to connect and work with their customers in real time, because they already have the brand. The brands are there forever. All of these major brands that we see at the pharmacies or the supermarkets, we tend to buy the brands themselves, but now the mini brands or the white label brands and newcomers that are coming out have no brands, and yet they're still outperforming. Like, why did one of the CPG guys buy the Dollar Shave company, right? So this is an example of, is it brand building, or is it people just have a need and they're going after mass market and they know how to connect to the customers through digital? And so the experience is better. They connect 100% direct to the consumers, and they deliver a much better engagement strategy. So these types of newcomers will get acquired by these old brands. So if you're considering just UOB, DBS, and all of these other banks and telcos, they already have a brand. Why do you care to actually spend another $100 million on your branding strategy? Why don't you build a digital and a nimble cloud mobile first platform and forget about that brand building. So this whole offset of spend needs to convert over to technology innovation versus brand building.
We have a question in from the audience, and I think this one's a great one for you to tackle because we are entering in. I'm convinced next year is going to be as difficult, or if not worse, than the current year, because the true economic impact has yet to really hit most markets. So in an environment or an incoming environment where consumers are being more prudent, more cautious in their spendings, they're trading down for cheaper options because budgets won't allow. How does then one create a lifestyle marketing brand or forum from a want rather than a need in such circumstances?
That's why we focus on quality over quantity. If you think about building even that marketplace, are you actually slapping brands and just all sorts of products just because, and building that catalog of products and services? Or do you know that these are essentials, that these are already must-haves, right? So when you focus on quality over quantity, relevance over spray and pray, you know exactly what's going to sell. So build a foundational aspect of that where it's, primarily it's going to be the need part because you're serving my essential needs. So your customer, so it's not about the marketer, it's not about what you want to do, it's about what is the current state of your customers. They're not looking at luxury, they're not looking at anything that's a nice to have. How do you build a sustainable net new revenue model that serves the needs of the lifestyle essentials of your customers? That's called lifestyle marketing.
So we have another question in from the audience, and I think this will probably be the 10th millionth time you offer an answer to this because it's one of those evergreen because the problem still persists. And it's, how do you try to convince, despite everything that's happened in the COVID year, how do you still try to convince C-levels of traditional businesses to change that mindset of digital, to convince them that there is value in investing in this, in investing in the talent and the infrastructure and the processes to execute within this digital lens? How do you get them started? What's your pitch to them if they kind of get it, but they don't know where to start? They don't know how to just take that first step.
Well, I'm going to be controversial again. If you're trying to convince them, they're the wrong leaders already. You should have gotten that plan out of the way 3 to 5 years ago. So cut them, fire them, change the old guard to the new guard who are tech savvy, marketing savvy, digital savvy, consumer friendly. They listen to the consumers, they react quickly to the consumers, they make very quick decisions and try to think through, okay, if this actually mini project might go sideways, then I will quickly pivot again. And so this whole nimble mindset and functioning fast in an agile manner, if you're trying to convince the executive now is trying to do something, you're too late. I'm sorry. That leadership team needs to be completely fired. Which is what's happening right now. So the old guards who had 10, 15, 20 years of leadership sitting in the boardroom, in the big room, they were going golfing, wining and dining clients and just having those, luxury way to manage the company. But now the new leadership comes in. Guess what? They have a contract. The old guard did not. So the new guard comes in. My role is only, here for 3-4 years at the most, right? I'm measuring every year. And if I don't turn that ROI, I'm going to get effing fired. And so these new leadership coming in are so passionately trying to change, the culture, the transformation, and they have to. Otherwise, they're out of there in 2-3 years. They don't have the luxury as the old guard sitting there, wasting time.
So this leads in nicely to the next question that comes from the audience. And despite general consensus saying now has never been a better time to be a marketer, there is that kind of dark cloud of job security kind of leaning over, really going back to what you said about if I don't hit that ROI every year, I'm going to get freaking fired. So when it comes to the skill sets that a modern marketer requires, what is the list for you? If or what gaps do you think that today's marketers need to be looking at in terms of signing up for classes or getting educated or speaking to the experts to inform themselves and expand their skill set portfolio and be a little less easier to fire?
You don't have to learn how to code or, and know how to build a architecture diagram. We're not talking about that. If you have the mindset and you are sensitive to your customers' needs, work with look at how you carve out your team, because you have upskilling, you have repurposing of teams and mindsets. You have also, you need to let go of some of the dead wood as well. At the same time, you need to hire the younger blood. The blood that you can learn from and potentially could be the next generation. I want to hire people that I want to work for. I don't want to work, the traditional hiring is, I don't want anyone to be better than me. Screw that. I want all of my team members to be 10 times smarter than me so that I can look up to them and learn something. And so if I'm not learning anything from my own team every day, then it's irrelevant. Why are we even here? Because we're here to grow exponentially, not to take baby steps and have sub 5% year-over-year growth. That's not what we're here for. We're here to grow more than 5% year-over-year. And look at all the traditional brands today, their stocks are tanking.
This is true. I think we are pretty much out of time, and mindful that a lot of the participants today have been kind of in front of their computers, staring at people talking on screens, saying some awesome stuff, of course, but it's been a long day for all the participants. So just to close things out, if there is one thing you want the marketing community listening in right now to keep in mind and try to put into practice in 2021, what would it be?
Wow. Have an open mind and, just take it one day at a time. I think we're all very Zoom fatigued and stressed out. We're hyper productive. We don't have anywhere to go. So we literally focus most of our energy at work. So be mindful and just, really take good care of yourself first and foremost, the mental health. The others is, now that we are able to provide and get more virtual, there's a lot more networking that's going on, and people are much more friendlier if you call them into, have a chat or even have a coffee. People are actually dying to go out to meet with others, to interact. But I see, there's no one recipe at all. It's really at the state of mind that you're in. And, a lot of us are trying to pivot our own careers. I know some senior leaders who are C-levels of traditional brands that are looking to start their own company, and digital platforms or virtual banks and neobanks and neo-fintechs or whatnot. And so it's a fantastic time to look at also taking something and owning it and doing it yourself. And so stop chasing other people's dreams and maybe think about chasing your own.
That's a brilliant note to end things on. And with that, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and your time, Anna. And I hope that the ReCon audience also enjoyed this session. So back to you, Steph.
Well, I certainly enjoyed that. Thank you so much, ladies, for closing us off with a bang. And it's so good to hear from a CEO's perspective on what, you're looking for in the marketer of the future. And, even though there's so much that we have to grapple with, I like that you end us off on a very positive note. So, 2021 is going to be a great year for the marketer.
Great. Thank you so much. All the best to everyone.
See you guys.